I live in Scotland and I'm the director of a theatre company called Catherine Wheels. And we make work mainly for sort of 2 to 11-year-olds. It has been interesting this week because I'm also on a panel for the Ask in China. So I've had to watch 30 films of shows. And then also I've watched your films, and it's been a really interesting experience. And I have been very sniffy and critical about work online, but I've actually had a really good time watching work. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, Jill. I think Nike can go next. I'm just calling names as I see them here, please.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from rainy old London. My name is Nike Jonah, not as beautifully as pronounced as Anike pronounces her name. I've got an English accent. I can never get my name quite right. But I run a showcase platform in South Africa called the Pan-African Creative Exchange. And it was really set up to support artists on the continent to be able to increase their touring, their business, their opportunities within the continent and outside of the continent. We launched the first one in 2018, and the second one took place online in August, and it went really well. So this is why this conversation is really interesting. And with my other hat on, I'm a visiting research fellow at Central School of Speech and Drama, and I also work in the space of migration and social change, looking at how pop culture can serve to rethink how we talk about migration and refugees here in the UK, because it's quite contentious subject matter. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nike. Okay, can we have Inge next? I hope I've just pronounced that name correctly. But please feel free to correct me so that I can get it right before the event starts proper.
It's a tough name to pronounce, but Inge is fine. I'm Inge Koestermans. I'm running the Festival Academy. We're an organization that actually offers peer-to-peer exchange on festival management. The way that we see festivals is that they are not islands, so they're not existing outside of what is going on in the world. So we always try to see what their role can be in society related to social change or climate change or all the issues that are currently at stake. Of course, since COVID hit, we've seen many festivals moving their activities to the digital space. And Joshua Alabi took part in one of our digital online ateliers, the Atelier for Solidarity. So I think I will add on the conversation from that space, how festivals can survive and how they have been managing their work recently. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we have Frederica next?
Yes, hello, good afternoon from Lagos. I was very happy to be finally able to return to Nigeria on Thursday after some problems. And I'm the director of the Goethe Institute in Lagos for the last 4 years. And in past years, we also focused on support local artists and festivals to provide platforms to implement their festival, their performances. And of course, we know that since March, since COVID-19 also hit Nigeria, it becomes more and more difficult. One topic, of course, is which platform they should use, and the other, of course, the financial aspect. So I feel very honored to be here because I'm neither a theater expert like most of you, nor really deep experts of digital platforms, but I'm happy to share our experiences in these fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to access this participant list again to see who's next. But can Prof go on, please? Professor Yarima, can you introduce yourself, please? Good afternoon.
You're muted. We cannot hear you.
Can you try to unmute, Prof?
Let's see. I can only ask him to unmute because he's muted himself. Okay, while Prof is trying to sort out his mic. Okay, he's here now. Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon. Hi. Well, I said my name is Ahmed Yerima. I'm basically a teacher and also a playwright, but I used to run the National Theatre and then also the Abuja Carnival. And when I think of COVID-19, I begin to cry because my major problem is I remember how our theatre is so intimate and in terms of, and so I am hoping today to learn quite a lot about it and also to exchange some of my fears. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Could everyone hear Prof clearly, or was it just on my end? I just want to be sure his mic is fine.
It sounded like there was water going on in the background. There was a watery sort of sound.
Yeah.
You were speaking. Yeah.
Maybe my air conditioner.
Ah, possibly.
Yes.
Is it gone now?
I think it's a little better now.
Okay. All right.
It's a little better, yeah. Okay. We also have Jolayemi here as well. Hi, Jolayemi. Hi, Jolayemi. Can you hear us?
I can hear you clearly. I hope you can hear me also.
Good. Yes, we can hear you now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Right. I run a company called Swift Link Limited here in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria, and have been very much involved with quite a lot of theater production with both the Thespian Family Theater, Fox Nation Family, and quite other theater productions, basically on the back-end work of production and stage management, and also publicity and marketing as well. So for me, this is a very good platform to learn and share. Transition for the Redeemed Christian Church of God's virtual convention. I was pretty much the one who designed the movement from the regular gathering of people to the virtual version that happened in the month of August, bringing together countries of about 198 countries together in that platform. So I'm looking forward to hearing and learning, as well as sharing how we were able to transition from having people come all over the world to Nigeria, and then otherwise not having to do it virtually while others can watch from their various homes. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jolayemi. So Nike couldn't hear you. Could every other person hear?
Yes.
Okay. So I think the sound is from Nike's end. I'll just drop her a message for her to reconnect her sound. Okay. All right, great. We also have German on the line. Good afternoon, sir. I think German has introduced himself already, or is he in my mind? Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, everyone. I seem to know at least more than half of the house already. My name is German. My name is German Anikulapo. I work in the field of culture, and I think Professor Yerima is my teacher, so he can give a testimony that I'm jobless when it comes to the arts, but I run around the arts. So in the I don't know, maybe God, I've been wondering why I'm called God. I studied theater. I also work in the field of theater, but I'm also on the board of Kinesa. But maybe my experience since May hosting a total of 11 plays, which were done online. I've been doing comparisons. The last one is Brittling Diamond that you see the poster behind Professor Yerima.
Yeah.
Which we did just on October 1. And it was a new experience for me, as I confessed during the event. So I'm here to learn a lot because I could see quite a lot of people who can teach me one or two things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the event is going to start at 4. Let's say 4:05, just to give people time to log on and join. And basically, I'll start by introducing the session and each panelist. I'll introduce everyone. Joshua already shared brief bio with me. So I'll introduce everyone and then we'll play one of the films from Kinninso Concept. Joshua, how long is it for?
This is about 2 minutes, 2 minutes and a few seconds.
Okay, so that will play for 2 minutes and then we'll start the event proper. So I think everyone's sound is fine. Is Nike's sound back?
James just joined.
Hello.
How could I forget James?
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I was a little bit delayed in my connection to join, but I just thought I should introduce myself. So sorry I missed some of the introductions, but it's nice to hear everyone. So nice to see you all today.
Yeah.
Shall I just say a few words about myself? My name's James Tyson, and I work with the British Council in London, and I'm also a colleague with Annika, actually, yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here. I work as part of the theatre and dance team of the British Council, so we help advising on kind of theatre and dance programs that the British Council supports. And that's how I got to meet Joshua last year when he came to the Edinburgh Festival Showcase, which is a big platform we run every year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the discussion, and yeah, thanks very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, James. Nike can hear now, but it's still a bit low. Hopefully that gets better in the course of this event. So we have 5 minutes before the official start. So I think this is a great time to go off and drink water, coffee, tea, before we start the event proper, and just basically check that your phones are on silent, so that when you get notifications, they don't distract you. So I'll see everyone here I'll be back here in 4 minutes exactly.
This file here, or should I give it to you at the office later? You can give me the file right now, Kabir.
Okay, I'm back. It's 4 p.m. Nigerian time. And we have some guests in the waiting room. So if everyone is happy, we can let people in now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to give another 2 to 3 minutes for more people to join, and then we'll start. We are set to start at 5 minutes past on the dot, 5 minutes past 4, and we'll start. Thank you very much for joining early. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us and for joining on time. My name is Anike Ali Hakim. I am an arts manager based in Lagos. Before we start properly, can I request that if you are not a speaker today, could you please put your mic on mute so that background sound will not interfere with the session today? Thank you. Okay, hi again, everyone. My name is Anike Ali Hakim, and I am very happy to be moderating this panel today. Our topic is reinventing stories for the digital world. I believe that's the story, yes. Reinventing stories for digital consumption. And today we have 8 speakers who will be sharing information, knowledge around, how they've been able to transition or even support other organizations transitioning to the digital world in this past few months. As we all know, live theater as we know it, has not been able to happen in the last 6 months because of the pandemic. And even though live theater hasn't been happening, we've been able to enjoy the comforts, the provocation that theater brings in a new, what should I say, subgenre that we have now called online theater. I don't know if the name has been widely accepted, but that's what I believe is being called right now, online drama, in the form of live monologues or even recorded films of performances that have been done previously and that different theater organizations are putting out, or even live shows that are happening, whether bandwidth supports it or not. And now that I've mentioned bandwidth is just one of the challenges. Internet connectivity is one of the challenges that theater artists and organizations have faced. And I'm sure that there are numerous in this lockdown period that we've experienced. And all over the world, there have been various degrees of lockdown. It's not the same everywhere. So it's like different experiences for different people. And on our panel today, we have a range of speakers who also have different experiences. And I'll just introduce our speakers today in no particular order. We have Professor Ahmed Yerima, who is an academic, playwright, and theater director. Professor Ahmed Yerima was the Director General of the Nigerian National Theatre, and he also served as the Director of the National Troupe. Currently, he's a Professor of Theatre and Performing Arts, and he's been the Dean of the College of Humanities, Redeemers University, since 2013. Professor Yerima has written on different genres of literature, and most of his works are historical plays. We will know some of his plays already, and they include Trials of Oba Ovaranwe, Heart of Stone, Yemoja, Orisha, Ibeji, and many, many others. Thank you, Professor Yerima, for joining us today. Next, we have Jill Robertson. Jill is the director of Catherine Wheels, Scotland's most celebrated producer of work for children and young people with inspirational and original productions. And they've presented productions in over 26 countries. Catherine Wheels is also Scotland's most traveled theatre company, touring festivals and schools in communities around the world. Recent productions from Catherine Wheels includes Emma and Jill, a production with Longhair Theatre Company. Thank you, Jill. We also have German Anikulapo here with us today. Uncle German, as he's fondly called in the theatre space in Nigeria, has been an arts and culture journalist for over 3 decades. writing mostly on the performing arts, visual arts, literature, and cultural affairs. He was arts and media editor for The Guardian from 1992 to 2003, editor of The Guardian on Sunday from 2003 to 2013. He also operates as cultural curator, producer, programmist, jury, and consultant to major continental cultural projects, including FESPACO, PANAFest, etc. He was country chairman and West Africa representative for Arterial Network, the Pan-African Network of Artists, arts organizations, and culture creators from 2015 to 2017. German is the program chairman, Committee for Relevant Arts, CORA, as well as Executive Director, Culture Advocates Caucus, CAC. Thank you, German, for joining us today. We have Friederike Moschel, born in Munich, grew up in Hamburg, Bonn, and the city of her birth. She completed studies in German and English literature in Bonn, Heidelberg, and Cologne, and taught at the German Embassy School in Beijing, China for 2 years. Friederike was the director of the language department at the Goethe Institute, Uzbekistan, and she had a 2.5-year stint in Kiev, Ukraine. Friederike is currently the director of the Goethe Institute in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you, Friederike, for joining us today. We have Nike Juna, who has had various roles in the cultural sector. She's currently the lead for the Pop Change at Counterpoint Arts, and also a visiting research fellow at Central School of Speech and Drama. In 2018, she launched Pan-African Creative Exchange, a business-to-business in Africa. And between 2008 to 2012, Nike led the Decibel Program, an Arts England initiative for African, Asian, and Caribbean artists in England. Nike is a trustee of the European Cultural Foundation, the Birmingham Contemporary Music Group, the Royal Africa Society, and the Bush Theatre. Here today also we have Ayola Jolayemi, who is the managing partner of Swift Think Limited, an idea development and management firm based in Lagos, Nigeria. He has an executive management program certificate from London School of Business and Finance UK. He's also a certified project manager, certified IT service manager, and certified Microsoft project professional. He's held several roles at Lion of Zion Media Abuja, head of Africa Relations and Trade, African Promotion Center, Brussels, Belgium, and also country manager, Liveway Productions. Thank you, Ayola, for joining us today. We have James Tyson. James writes and stages experimental texts for theater, as well as collaboratively making dance, performance, and interdisciplinary works. His recent projects include Visa with Zupa Theater, George's Batelle's Bathrobe by Yubiwa Hotel and in Tokyo in February 2018. He's previously worked as head of theater at Chapter Arts Center Cardiff from 1999 to 2011, and is co-founder of Intangible Studio, SAIL, in 2010. He directed International Performance Festival Cardiff in 2014 and was director of International Agatha Christie Festival in Tokyo, England, 2016 to 2019. Thanks, James. We have Inge, who is the General Director of the Festival Academy, a non-profit organization initiated by the European Festivals Association. The Festival Academy has grown out of the success of the ateliers for young festival managers and offers unique, intense, and rigorous training programs on festival management to young, dynamic, and passionate festival makers worldwide. Inge has a master's degree in languages and literature with a specialization in theater sciences. She was the general manager for the Brussels-based artist company, Need Company, under the artistic direction of Jan Lewers from 2003 to 2012, before she started working for the European Festivals Association, a network organization of more than 80 festivals in Europe and beyond. apart from this, she's consulting different artists on their general strategy and international relations. She's also a member of the advisory committee for the Agency of Arts and Heritage in Flanders. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Those are all our speakers, and you agree with me that they come from like various backgrounds, and so the conversation today will definitely be rich. Before we go into the event proper, I'd mentioned earlier that live theater hasn't been happening, so people have, you know, transitioned their live shows or even planned shows into online versions that could be enjoyed. And our hosts today, Kinninsaw Concepts, have done something they've named Home Theater, and they'll be showing us a 2-minute film of a performance that we can enjoy. I think we're struggling a little with the sound of the clip.
It was a Sunday afternoon. I was 5 buildings away from the church. And in a matter of seconds, everywhere was razed to ashes. He is a boy. He needs all the love and care to become a man. You are a girl. Go to the kitchen. In the refugee camp, right before my eyes, girls were sold to be powerful and their names erased from the ledger that doesn't exist. I was with my husband. They came to our village, took my son and asked him to save one of us. He looked at me, took the knife and slashed his father. Moshe Pataki. India Panawu. Ina da darja Adikba.
Thank you very much. That was a 2-minute clip of Kennesaw Concepts play, and they have 21 short films at the moment available on their YouTube channel for anyone to watch at convenience. Thank you very much for that clip. And you know, that clip just leads us directly into our conversation. So home theater is Kennesaw's innovative way of, you know, transiting from live shows into digital shows. How well do you think this approach could thrive? And would have Nike answer this first. How well do you think this approach could thrive? Hi, Nike, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, I think the first thing to think about is pre-COVID, theatre was already having a series of problems. So we shouldn't forget that. I know in Nigeria, but also even here in the West, the global North, if you like, that there was a gratification. So the audience were older and they weren't getting any younger. So they weren't bringing in young audiences. So I think to find a space like the digital space where you can find the young people that theatre's been so desperately trying to bring in, and start to rethink about how you make theatre, who's making it, whose voices are being heard that aren't normally being heard. I think it's a really exciting time. I think we've been pushed, theatre's kind of needed this kick up the backside for a while, and we've been forced to kind of think about other spaces. It allows us to start thinking about accessibility, those people that can't get out. You know, it's something that I know there's a number of theatre companies in Nigeria that look at that, like, you know, the Crown Troupe, they're very good about thinking about the invisible people, people in children's homes or in hospitals that can't get to the theatre. So I think it just gets you to start thinking about distance, proximity, how to use the digital space. We've seen all sorts of really interesting performances that have happened even via Zoom. I mean, we ran our platform, the Pan-African Creative Exchange, in a digital space, and we most probably turned it around in about 4 weeks. And it was a lot of work, but we've had the most amazing feedback. People felt really connected. So I think there's a real, it's really exciting, you know. That's what I'd say, yeah.
Thanks, Nikki, to know that like your attitude and your response towards it has been positive so far. And I know that for a range of people, you know, that would also be the response. But you raised a very important conversation there around access, you know, and the level of access in different countries is different. It isn't the same. And so I would like to get other people's opinions as well as to how would this thrive. So Professor Ahmed Jerima has been able to transit, you know, his plays in this period as well. So I would like to get like his thoughts around how well do you think this will thrive, especially after everything dies down, when there's an opportunity to go back to live shows. Do you think this subgenre that has emerged, do you think that it will thrive? Professor, please, let's hear your thoughts.
Hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. I think we are all, including me, suffering from a state of shock. We may not have had the COVID physically, and thank God for that, but we are beginning to see the after effect of it. It's new, it's strange, and it's causing a lot for cultural history, theater history, process that we're used to. I'm still suffering from the shock of seeing my play, Breitling Diamond, move from the stage to the digital space. And after a while, I think for the first 20 minutes, I couldn't connect. I was saying, what is this? The line sounded like mine, but the performance was different. And so I was saying, something's happening. Maybe I'm the problem. And then I started to concentrate. And then it grew on me and I could now connect. I think it's new. I think we're going to get used to it. The young artists, like Nika said, are quite flexible and they are ready to occupy the digital space. But the old audience also are going to have a problem because it's not just a culture shock, it's a shock, and in capital letters. And so what I'm hoping for is that even after COVID, we still find a space to absorb this new form, and at the same time to still practice our old form, because our old form of theater comes from our cultural history and comes from our persona, and it's difficult to totally delete that. That's my submission.
Thank you, Prof. So we've heard from, Prof and Nike. I would like to get German's perspective around, the feasibility of continuing this way, especially from a cultural commentator's point of view.
I think as Professor Ahmed Yerima said, I was also in a state of shock when this started. I mean, when people talk about watching theater online, but I've been privileged to then do what we call web crawling by my friend who is there now, Kole Adeoditola. I went all over the web and I was trying to see the different experiences. What I saw from the United Kingdom's theater sector was something I thought would not be possible here because of the sheer volume of technology deployed. I don't see any theater that has capacity or any theater company that has that capacity to do that here. Then over time, I've seen things from South Africa, I've seen from the US, I've seen from East Africa, Kenya especially, and I've seen one from West Africa. And then I've hosted some. And I've seen that there's actually a potential for this new normal in the theater. There's the new normal COVID, but it's the new normal theater. I have my fear. My fear is that we have not been, the theater artist, I also train as a theater director, an actor too, dancer. We've not been sufficiently prepared for this kind of world, okay? So it's it may be easier for another client to quickly adjust. But here, we have not been sufficiently prepared in terms of what we were taught in school. And Professor Yerima, one of our teachers, will bear me witness. We have to recalibrate our thinking about the way theater is presented here. We're very physical in our theater. And this is a theater that is making you to be in front of a screen. Already, we have a problem getting stage-trained theater artists to adapt to camera. That's why Nollywood is what it is. That Nollywood is so physical, is so textual, is so verbal, is so, I want to go and eat. You have to demonstrate everything. But this is a new medium, which is bringing both the live theater and the screen together. Personally, I'd always been questioning the whole idea of the proscenium theater that we practice in Africa. I don't think it's the right theater for us. And I think that's why we've not been able to really generate, to really bring theater to the consciousness of the people, to have large followings of theater. Our traditional theater was very successful because it happened in the round. It was like a festival. When you go to a traditional theater production, it was like you are a participant. There's no Proscenium wall, which has the audience and the audience and the stage, the performer and the audience. You have that wall, and it breaks the wall of the African theater. But maybe this is an experiment that we can go through, that we can easily ease ourselves into and then become more proficient in it. But I doubt, for now, I doubt if theater can thrive on this new normal in the theater, especially in terms of earning money. I don't see how we're going to earn some money from this. I mean, when we get deeper into this, I will explain some of the experiments. As I've said, I've hosted about 11 of these productions, and I keep on wondering, how are they going to survive? Because these guys have to survive to produce the next show. If they have to continue like this, I doubt it very much. This country, this system does not make any provision for, I'm not knocking my country, but this system does not make any provision for the survival of the artist. So I doubt it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, German. German has raised some very valid points. And, you know, me personally, I've been thinking about it, you know, around how live theater versus online theater is going on now. And I would just say how generosity that's making it work at the moment. How long that generosity will last is what I'm not sure of. And when I say generosity, I mean watching shows for free, Instagram Live or Facebook Live, or even a Zoom show that is not ticketed, or even the ticketing may just be around donations, you know, for a cause. It gets me thinking about those who work on the back end, the crew members, you know, stage designers, lighting designers, script writers. I would say even right now there's work for script writers, obviously, but you know, you have the carpenters that knock your sets together, etc. How does that work? How does the generosity that we are experiencing now, that I mean the generosity of views, of viewing these shows for free online, how is it going to work in for a longer period, and when people start to need funds, especially for organizations that tour, like Catherine's company. So I would like to get Jill's inputs around this. How long do you think this generosity would last for with online theater?
Are we allowed
Hello.
to speak or
Hello.
Somebody?
Hi, Jill.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know how long the generosity will be there. Our experience is we put out a film of our show, one of our shows, White, at Easter, and we had a very good following for that. And then we're putting out the same show. We've refilmed it, so it's like a film quality version of the show that it's going to go out to schools in Scotland this December, and we are charging for that. It's a complete unknown, so we don't know how it will go. I don't know how makers and practitioners and artists are going to survive this. As a company, we've just worked quite hard to just hire as many freelancers as possible. And there's been brilliant examples of people coming together and artists coming together and new ways of working and real experimenting, exploring. But it's definitely a strange time. It's definitely a strange time. So I think there's the question about how we survive. And then there's the question about the form itself. And I think there's going to be really innovative, amazing work that's going to come out, perhaps from younger artists who are much more confident about trying things out and experimenting. But I think it will be really exciting about what theatre and film and it coming together and how we can play with that. I haven't seen enough work online that's doing that, but I think that's going to happen. Yes.
Great, thank you, Jill. Just to mention that we'll have 15 minutes before the end of the event. That's at 4:45, where we'll then open up the floor for people to put in their contributions. And if anybody has questions already in the chat box, I would ask our panelists. So I ask that you please bear with us so that we can cover all the things that we want to talk about between now and then. Jill has led us directly to my next question, which is around what's not yet popular way. Like, already we know that there are like Zoom shows and Facebook Watch, you know, kind of shows, but what unpopular ways do you think theater can be presented beyond, you know, live theater and what we already know now? Are there programs happening in your country that you are aware of and that you can share with us? I think Inge, we can ask Inge this question. Are there like theater companies that you know of, young, not so young, that are doing different things that is beyond the normal that we've experienced in the past 6 months?
I think there has been a huge amount of digital content that has been put on online following COVID-19. Theater festivals that have been going online in very different forms. But to refer to what has been said a little bit, I think the world is continuous in shock in one way or another. There is no post-pandemic. There might be another pandemic. We're confronted now with climate refugees, which will become more and more. So my feeling about theater and film and festivals at this point is that this is an ongoing process. It's like going digital is one of the possible responses that we've been doing to be able to stay connected, to be able to share our content. There's been a huge consumption in one way or another of Netflix or museums who've put their content online, major shows that I think a lot of the European companies have broadcasted their work online at a certain point. The question is a little bit who gets paid for that? Is this being monetized? Are artists being paid for that? What about author rights? All these issues that come about at a certain point. But my feeling is that there are different possibilities to respond to this. And I'm sure that in the future, or what home theater has been doing is in one way or another trying to put content outside and very socially relevant content to have a sort of impact on people who are living in Nigeria, on sharing stories, on things that are very important to impact society also, which shows me in a way that art can be so much more than only being a consumption or an entertainment. It's really about what we are able to do and how we can use this digital context at this point. At the same time, there's also all these people, of course, who don't have access. So I've seen many examples of organizations who also went out into the communities to make sure that people got access in different forms to things that have been broadcasted digital. So there are different responses, I think, that are needed at this time where we are in a sort of crisis situation and in a way, like being questioned about our existence, like why do we exist? Why do we make theater? Why do we organize festivals? And of course, a very important aspect of theater and festivals is the live engagement, the connection of people, the meeting of, which is much more challenging in these digital contexts. So I've seen festivals going digital also who did like these interactive things with the audiences of like everybody holding an object during an artist performance to create some kind of physical links again also, but while you're not just a consumer of what you are seeing, like being in this box. On the other hand, there's a huge issue also of digital burnout that we are all facing at this point, but there are opportunities. I don't think I would have been on this panel in Nigeria if COVID-19 would not have happened. So that's a little bit where I want to feed in, I think.
Thank you, Inge. My next question would be for Friederike. And James, actually, because I know that they both work across different art forms, not just theater. So I'd like to know, what trends do you think would go on right now from the different art forms, visual arts, music, theater, not just only theater? What trends have you seen so far that you think can be incorporated with theater, that theater companies, organizations can follow or even try out to kind of mitigate some of the risks that may have come up in just putting out content for free as it is? Frederica, please.
Okay.
Yes,
Hello,
please.
everyone. Yeah, as Inga already mentioned, I mean, since the lockdown in most countries, end of March, beginning of April, there was really tons of content now in the internet on digital platforms, and a lot of organizations, initiatives try to continue with their projects digitally. And to be honest, after a certain point, I was a little bit wary. It was a lot of content, and it is not that easy just to film something and put it on the platform, you know. So it is really, as it was said before, it's also about technical equipment, how to edit content, etc., etc. However, I see one positive thing. The advantage is that you can really reach out now globally, and so if you have, for example, spoken words events such as panel discussions, so usually you stick to your usual audience. Let's say when the Goethe Institute in Nigeria is doing something, we have usually a Nigerian audience sitting in the event hall and discussing together with panelists. Now, if you have digital events, you suddenly see that people from other Western African countries, from Europe, wherever, are joining as well. And I think this is a huge advantage when it's about really connecting cultural scenes throughout the world, you know. But I mean, as I said, spoken words, events like panel discussions, lectures, where people can also have the Q&A session, I see this as something really good, and I think this is really the future. However, when it's about exhibitions, for example, I have the feeling there's still a lot of things to do. And of course, the big museums in Europe or the US or so, they have usually a budget for professional engineers, sound mixer, etc. But when smaller initiatives, organizations try to put their content online, sometimes after some minutes you become a little bit impatient because the sound is not good, or the quality is not, of the film quality is not really perfect. So in future, there is a lot of effort, budget in trainings of people who are helping to provide really good quality online.
Thank you, Frederica. James, can you share with us any trends that you've seen from other art forms that can be incorporated into theater?
Yeah, thank you, Anika. I think in a way we're all talking about a real kind of ambivalence in a way about both the opportunities and the limitations of digital platforms in a way. And I think every art form is actually having to struggle with that. I mean, obviously we've seen at this stage, some art forms like visual arts, even music to extent, are starting to actually present their exhibitions and do some live events, and you know, and then that's often based on how much they can support or financially support the cost of social distancing their audiences. So, and that depends on the economy that the arts is within. And so I think every art form is having to really struggle with this. And I mean, even cinema, you know, which is a, you know, let's say it's not a live medium, but, you know, how do you make cinema? You know, you have to film and you have to, and then the actual cinemas themselves. So I think every art form is struggling actually with these same questions. And because you're not getting the same volume of people engaging with it, which has a financial effect. So I don't know, I think everyone is actually, I mean, sort of interesting in a way that everyone's having to sort of almost homogenize how they present their work, because it's actually, everyone has to fit it into basically a Zoom framework, or kind of a sort of digital framework, of which there are there's only so many of those. And so we're all somehow actually fitting into a certain way of doing something. And so I don't know, I mean, going back to, I think like Inga and Jaman were talking in a way, I feel it does bring a real existential question, because then you have, in a way, I think before COVID, of course, the digital platform was increasingly becoming ubiquitous in a way, and you only exist when you're on digital. You only exist if you have a website. But of course, this is not true. But we, that's what becomes, and economically, and all our structures of our global kind of globalized world kind of somehow rely on that. So I think we've become very used to that. So when the crisis hit, we all went into that world. So, okay, this is how we can still stay connected. But then, of course, in a very local way, a lot of, whether you're a theatre company or a visual artist, or, you can actually then not engage with digital work. And actually, it's about a person-to-person connection. And maybe that is what an artistic practice can be about. But then that means it won't exist to the world. So then we have this sort of ambivalence. So I think everyone's trying to deal with what is their relationship to that. How can that be sustainable? How can that be, I don't know, economically possible or profitable? Or, but also how can it be meaningful? And so, I think every art form is actually having to really question that. And of course, some people are coming up with some very inventive ways of dealing, whether it's making performances, which I think they were doing before, but obviously this is has focused everyone's minds very quickly onto that. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you, James. I agree with you that different art forms are struggling right now, to define exactly how they want to deliver and set themselves apart from the others. But I also think that this is a time for greater collaboration. I think this period has forced, people to collaborate more, and to even explore like other avenues for creating, showing work, distributing work, beyond just putting it up on your social media page, just because as a form of advertisement. And people are taking the online world more seriously beyond just advertising your work now, because it is now a mode and a model for actual delivery. And you then see that you try to start thinking, is it hard to, do this? Is it easier to collaborate with somebody else? Do I have to do it alone or not? These are the questions that artists and organizations think about. But it then brings me to the question of what stakeholders in this field, are thinking about. If artists are thinking about being forced, not really forced, but having to then actively find collaborators, what then happens to other stakeholders in the creative industry, like cultural institutions, critics, providers, people who fund the arts? What does this mean for them? Like, is there an opportunity to create a niche for themselves, because artists are having to increasingly collaborate with one another? So I think I would ask Ayola Jola-Ayemi that, because he's an IT professional and also a media professional. I'm sure that he's seeing opportunities for, carving out a niche for non-core artists in the creative industry.
Thank you very much, Anike, and good afternoon, everyone. Generally, I believe very strongly that the future of theater and everything art cannot in any way be separated from technology and the use of technology. I know Africa, for one, has a low internet penetration at the moment, but it's improving. We are having this session right now using the power of the internet. Now, the guys who, or the practitioners who the form of arts aside from theater have a huge opportunity to cross pollinate ideas with people from other part of the world in terms of, their own work being used in other countries. I will give a very simple example. Now, Nigeria, for one, is a country where we have still a growing, I would say growing population of theater enthusiasts. It's not yet what you would call that much of mainstream, unlike what you have with Nollywood and comedy, but it's growing. However, the advent of coronavirus or the COVID-19 pandemic has opened up an opportunity whereby the young, I would say the digital native or the digital natives can actually appreciate what is being done in the space of theater or other art forms. And looking at it from that perspective, the maximum a theater room can take in Nigeria, even the very biggest of them, maybe 2,000 people. And sometimes you might be able to get a whole lot more people with repetitive or iterative shows using the power of the internet. And then the entry point can be reduced. And that's one of the things I believe needs to be properly harnessed by the theater gurus like Professor Yerima and Dr. Odutola and Uncle Jam. There has to be a sampling of the market with regards to paid platforms for theater. And that means you have to work hand in hand with payment platforms like, there are quite a number of them in Nigeria and across Africa that already have a huge database, and they've already captured behavioral patterns by virtue of customers, customer payment or buying patterns online captured through algorithms. Now, when you're partnering with such people, there is a possibility of now increasing the penetration of the art forms because they will be easier, I would call them soft sales, as against the hard sales of people who don't even have any form of enthusiasm or love for the art. So I would suggest that there will be a way to create cross-pollination of ideas from multidisciplinary convergence. So you're talking about folks in the fintech coming hand in hand with folks in media tech, coming hand in hand with folks in traditional theater, you do currently now for television or for the screen, and then getting the right people to know that it even exists. So you have maybe some platforms that have 300, 400,000 people. Now, when you have partnership with them, there is a possibility of improving significantly how the number of people that can be reached with those materials are. The other part of it, I would think that needs to actually work, we need to really work on as far as embracing tech for theater will be to see ways by which immersive technologies are embraced. Theater is more of very sensory than just sitting down and just watching over a screen. There's a lot of sensory play that comes to play in theater. People want to feel, want to touch. I mean, so there will be the need to begin to explore ways by which, immersive technologies can handshake with theater in the coming days. I know that for many of us, we want to go back to how it is being done, which is going back to brick and mortar. But this, as much as we say it is just a stopgap, I would really much differ a little bit because I believe very strongly that it has come to stay. I give an example of what we worked on earlier in the year, in the month of August. Now, I consulted from my church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and over the years, we've always had people come to the big camp that seats about 2 million people at the maximum, and we had a fix. People could not travel anymore, right? So we said there had to be a way to create something more immersive, and the complete program was overhauled as to how it was presented. So rather than having someone speak just from a podium, we had to create talk shows, create short sitcoms, create small documentaries, and then made them fit for television. And at the time the aggregation was done, we had over close to 27 million viewers as against 2 million people that would have gathered to sit down and watch. So whether we like it or not, it is a blessing. It just depends on how best we can then harness the opportunities that come with these platforms.
Thank you very much, Ayola. And what is very clear from what you said now is artists and cultural organizations looking just beyond what they know and looking to partner with the necessary stakeholders in the other sectors that are needed to deliver like on everything they want to do. So a Kiniso concept, for example, would do well to have conversations with people like you who work in IT, who can tell them the best tech to use to deliver, or even work with them in developing tech, you know, to deliver, and to also ensure there isn't audience fatigue. Because another thing, like Federica mentioned, is the audience fatigue. How many shows are you possibly going to watch? In fact, how many Zoom meetings are you going to attend before getting tired? But of course, if it's something interesting and something that appeals to your sensories, then you can then enjoy it and not look at it as being tedious. That's what I've taken away from what Ayola has said. So we have comments in the chat box. I'll just open up right now for people to ask questions. We have Dr. Kole Odutola who wants to make a comment around media, the history of media and how radio was developed. Perhaps this would give us insights into what needs to be done or what needs to be considered going forward, as it seems like this form of theater has come to stay.
Every time there's a new medium, there's always panic. When radio was coming up, there was a lot of panic. Even it got to a point in which there was panic that if you listen to too much radio, your face will wrinkle. And if you look at the history of chamber music, when it started to become records, a lot of musicians kicked against it. It was like, this is sacrilege. And then we moved on to vinyls, LP, long playing records. We moved to CD. Every professional musician will tell you that this is almost sacrilege because you're reducing the quality you can get. You're compressing it. A CD compresses and it takes off the richness of sound. So if you follow the trajectory of media forms and their transformations, you would see that the theater has also come to a point in which it has to begin to think of ways. Brother Ayola almost mentioned it. He got right to the channel and he moved back. Because what he was about to say was that what is the business model that theater can develop from? That theater can develop in order to make money. Is that answered with the way radio developed? Because radio was free and a lot of people listened to radio and there was no commercials until when the soap makers started to appeal to women. And that's how this whole thing called soap came about. It's the same thing that theater at this point is also having to consider. How do we make money from it? What part of theater can we make money from? My answer is very simple. One of the things that COVID has brought about is glaringly to show the digital divide in the world. And there is need for advocacy now. Now that everybody in the global south now knows the quality that telecommunication companies are selling to them, there is now need for an advocacy that you want better quality services. And in the interim, what I would suggest is that there is a possibility of uploading to somebody in the global north what you have, so that the kind of things that have happened in a number of cases, dropping things, will be minimized until when the telecom companies can rise up. That is one. The second solution is in collaboration, and I think that has been mentioned. Renegade Theatre cannot afford to put their play on YouTube and just get the traffic of the sympathizers of Renegade Theatre. You now need to have a combination. You now need to have umbrella organizations that would invite a traffic that will be meaningful. Until when organizations like Theatre in Africa, which is based in Kenya, begin to create platforms that every organization on the continent that has content will put on it, so that you can get the number of clicks. We are in the business of clicks and traffic. Unless we do that, so that is one of the business models that media studies. I'm not a theater practitioner in any way. I didn't study theater. I have just been a reporter and I report theater once in a while. I'm a photographer, but I'm a media studies scholar. And in media studies, we do not look at the episodic reading of history. We look at history in a sweep to give us an understanding of where we're going. Once you understand where you're coming from, you begin to see that the panic and the shock that some of you have had, if COVID did not bring this, something else would have brought it. If you look at museums, long before now, museums had already gone online, that you can begin to see. And the fear of a lot of people is that once you put it online, people will not come. No! Once you put it online, it whets their appetite and they want to come and see. Theater should take a cue from what the museums are doing. And there are different aspects of theater apart from the production that you can sell. There's a pre-production reality show. There is a background things that happen. There is the after show that you can sell. It all depends on packaging. I do not want to be seen as lecturing because I know that you all are professionals in your field. But when it comes to my area, I just want to scream. Thank you very much for tolerating me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kole. That was very insightful contribution. And really, traffic means money. It's very evident on YouTube right now with all of the lifestyle content that is being shared. Before you can watch a lifestyle content of like 2 or 5 minutes, 1 minute into it, you've seen another ad. And when people watch ads, those lifestyle content producers get paid. So really, try to think of it that way. That's a model for getting income. Thank you very much, Dr. Kole, for that contribution. Somebody else in the comment section has mentioned learning from Nollywood and distribution. You know, Nollywood doesn't only focus on cinemas. They have things like distributing to airlines, different places to show their work. So yes, definitely, these are things that we need to think about. And I'm sure that once we settle with the notion of things not going back to normal as we know it and embracing this as something that is basically come to stay because of how fast-paced everything is now, we would then be forced to sit down and strategize how to then make money out of it. And Jill has already mentioned how our company is making money at the moment, plans to make money at the moment, because everybody needs to be paid. There's no point in doing work without having money. You have bills to pay, basically. Thank you very much. So we're almost at the end of this session. Kennesaw they have on their YouTube page called Kennesaw. They have 21 short films which they've uploaded. I know that people have already started viewing. So I would like to know our panelists' thoughts and feedback. This is a great time to give them feedback on the content they've put up already. What do you think about their content so far? And also they have a video coming out next week. So it's a video per week. Sorry, they don't have 21 up yet. They have one video per week. And they've they premiered the first one on the first in our independence, and back from our panelists on the Inge, what do you think of what they had so far? Have you been able to watch? Is Inge on the line?
I'm on the line. It's very difficult to understand you because you are breaking up. I don't know if it's only on my side, but I understood the question. So I've been seeing, I think 7 of the videos now, but I think I commented already in my earlier answer a little bit on it. For me, what it shows is that, yeah, again, I will repeat it, that art is so much more than entertainment. So I think the content and the social campaign that you're trying to manifest through these short movies is quite strong. The sharing of these stories for people to watch these who are in vulnerable positions, who might have experienced something like this, who can identify with that, who can feel less alone. I think that's generally a little bit the purpose of art or theater, where you go to listen to people's stories or languages or imagery or things like that. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Inge. Nike, have you had a chance to watch? Did you have any feedback for Killing Source team?
Yes, I did have a chance to watch. I watched all of them. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you, because I'm not really, I know Joshua, but I didn't really know the company. And I liked there was a variety of subject matters that I hadn't come across before. I felt like they were told through different viewpoints. So lots of the times when you're seeing theatre, sometimes it's coming from an elite few. And this has been questioned wherever you are in the world, that there's a certain type of person who's allowed to tell the stories. And I liked, there was one about, I think it was pointing towards suicide, but what I did miss is the one where the guy's mother threw water on his face. I don't speak pidgin English, so I could pick up bits of it, but it would have been most probably helpful with subtitles on that one. But I thought the subject matters were really powerful. And I guess when I was walking away, I thought what could help is starting to, all of them were quite topical. And I think you can start linking them to social change activists and actors and organizations that can help amplify, because they really are conversations that are happening at every corner of the globe. So I thought they were really interesting. I liked the acting. I loved the way they were shot. I think, well done, all of you. It's brilliant, really great. Really enjoyed it. And one thing I will add, because I know I have to leave fairly shortly.
Prof, do you have a comment?
Sorry? I want to add something.
Carry on, please.
Sorry? Can you hear me? I want to add 2 things. I think you can look at gaming, the gaming platform. There's a gamification that's happening within theatre. Some people will call it interactive, but there's some really interesting examples that I've been coming across over the last, 4 months, where people are trying to emulate things like festivals. You go into a game, you experience 3 or 4 venues where you can experience different shows happening simultaneously. You can become an avatar, you can have all these experiences. And these are things that are designed and built by the theatre makers. One thing that theatre does great is it tells stories, it subverts, it tells it from a different viewpoint. And right now, beyond the arts, people need support in developing those stories. And I think there's a really interesting opportunity for theatre to really show what it does and what it does well in terms of audience, how it tells stories, how it immerses people into the space and gets them to think and challenge them. I think a number of sectors outside of the arts are desperately looking. A friend of mine, he runs this huge event, and he said to me, I just went to this gaming company and he's spending thousands and thousands of pounds. And I said, you could have got a theatre maker to do that. That's not even a theatre maker's budget for an entire year, what he's spending on one event. And I can imagine the event's going to be quite dry because it's just people who are good with like avatars and gaming stuff, but they're not storytellers. gamers often aren't storytellers. They resort to stereotypes and tropes, and actually there's really think about what can happen in terms of theatre, the storytelling, the aesthetics, the visual arts, the set design within the gaming space. I think there's a real interesting opportunity that's emerging in the space of gaming, because it's the fastest growing medium in terms of like the arts. It's the fastest growing space in the world.
Absolutely.
I just want to throw that one out there.
Thank you, Nike. I've seen where that has been used, but not in theatre. I think music is where that has been used, and even beauty in the fashion industry. I think Fenty Beauty did a concert, like an event last month or 2 months ago, and you know, this was highly gamified. You know, there was a bouncer at the door. You could go into different rooms. If you were going to the pool side, there was a bouncer before you could get an access in. And it was really interesting, and it made you feel like you were actually at a live conference and going into different rooms where you need different levels of where you needed different levels of access. So yes, definitely that would work, and I would be very excited to see that happen here as well.
Okay. Hi, okay. Please can I suggest something?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adain Karomalara. I'd like to commend the efforts of the organizers and just to give a feedback on what Kinninsor Concept has been doing. I would also like to suggest to theatre practitioners to also consider education and theatre, particularly for teachers. I actually teach arts and design and drama. And part of the challenges that we faced is trying to explain certain principles, certain concepts, certain topics to these children aside the four walls of a classroom. On 1 or 2 occasions, I've actually taken the children out to watch performances by the Kinninsor Concept. But amidst the pandemic, we're restricted to taking the kids out, and we've moved on to virtual learning. So I would just suggest to theatre practitioners to try as much as possible to look at some of the stories written, to take a look at the curriculum, the books, to see how they could do voiceovers to enhance the understanding of the learners and also to increase the interest of these children in theatre, in drama, in arts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adenika, for that. I'm sure that will be considering that this is a period where most of us are navigating planning. So yes, thumbs up for that. And thank you. Frederica, do you have any feedback for Joshua and Kinninsor Concepts?
Yes. I felt the same as Nika said that when I watched the first movies. The first one I saw was the one about this wife who has been abused by her husband. And when the film was over, I said, okay, and now it would be the perfect timing to have a conversation about it, or to have some information on if you watch this theater performance and you are abused. So where can you go to? Whom can you contact? So I thought it was very good to start something else. And so I think this idea to provide it to organization initiatives who are dealing with the issues which are showed in this short theater performances would be a perfect cooperation between Kinninsor Concepts and these initiatives. And I really appreciate that Kinninsor Concept is always picking up these social problems and turns them into a theater performance.
Thank you very much, Federica. Can we have German, please?
Well, I'm not lamenting, but let me say that the reason you cannot see my video is because light has gone out. And more than 5 times I've been bumped off this particular session because of internet connection. And I think I have one of the strongest. If I have MTN, I believe it's very strong. So we got to be realistic. I like to be very realistic. Most of the time when we are in international forum like this, we tend to speak the language of the international. I'm so sorry to say we are not. We are not, because the very basic element that we need, we don't even have them. Okay? I'm struggling to hear everybody talking because the internet keeps cracking. I would have loved to hear someone like Wole Oguntokun, Segun Adefila, Ijodi, because I saw him here, Joshua Alabi, to speak to the experiences of trying to produce a play in this pandemic era. I'm not directly reacting to Dr. Adeodutola, but you know, when he gave those examples, see, painting prepared us for photography. Photography prepared us for film. What prepared us for COVID? Because we don't have the ecosystem that works. It doesn't work. I don't know if I'm speaking the mind of other people who practice, because I observe, okay? But that's just what I want to say, that we need to sit down and really determine how we want to produce this. I think one of the sample that has been given is what Segun did when they did the Co-Theater Carnival, what they call the real tour, where they did live theater and then they did virtual. From the real, they were able to raise some kind of money because they got people to attend the show. So they earned money from the gate. And then the virtual was free for 3,000, 10,000 people. I've also done that. I think we have to look at this different strategy that I imagine and see how we can bring them together. But then talking about the Kenenso clips, look, I'm not in doubt that if you leave Kenenso, because I'm on their board, if you leave them alone, they will produce 1,000 of those video clips. But I'm also very worried about how do they sustain it. If Goethe Institute does not give them money, British Council does not give them money, they don't get any grant, who is paying for that content? YouTube, okay, will come when you have 1,000 hits. You get your Google AdSense and so. But hey, how long is it going to take you to get 1,000? I'm running an online newspaper and I'm not able to even generate 200 yet. So I think we got to be, maybe this is not, this panel is a starting point. Maybe we need to have a bit more. It's good to learn from what other people are doing, but the environments are just different. I like to deal more with the environmental factors. I like to deal with that. And as I said in my initial contribution, in our schools, we have hundreds of students being trained by the Department of Theaters and Co. How many of them are being prepared for the next stage? Even the stage that is tomorrow. Tomorrow as in Monday. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Yeah, can I also say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Olufemi Fadairu, and unfortunately, I'm not a media practitioner. I'm not a theater artist or anything. I'm just a lover of the theater who comes to watch all the theaters that are shown, from Wole Oguntokun to Ijodi to Kenenso and all of them. I go around just watching theater. I'm a science student. Well, so, but since COVID started and there's been no proper theater, I've got so much of people send me links to say, watch this. But honestly, I've not watched any, not even for Joshua Alabi, that we keep talking every time. Because first thing, if I want to watch something on the screen, I'll watch a video. The reason why I want to watch theater is because I want to sit down and engage and see a physical theater and be able to laugh and respond when they say some things and make cat calls and all of that. That is not available now. I don't see how I'm going to pay for anything that is sent to me online. That is one part. The other part is, even when I say I want to watch, I'm sure many of us, as we are listening to this or having these discussions, have also had to go engage on other things on our phone. So I've been on WhatsApp, I've been on some other things on my phone, but I'm able to go along with this discussion because it's just audio. I don't need to see the actions and the video, I mean, the reactions to come along. If it were if I was to watch a theater online, I'll need them to be dedicated to see all of those things. Meanwhile, I have a WhatsApp message from my boss. I have another Zoom link on my laptop and all of that. So watching it is going to just go to the back of the stage for me. And even if I say I'll come back to it, many more chats will come up that I'll not come back to it. So I'd like to say that I think I align with the last speaker as per our own experiences in Nigeria. I don't know. I don't see how this will work as of today. I think if COVID goes off and there is a show tomorrow at Freedom Park, I think it's going to be... Okay, all right.
Thank you very much, Otumba. That's a very valid point that you've raised. The experience is not the same. And I wouldn't want us to just, stay at the present where we are. We know that it's not the same. That's a given. But definitely there are opportunities to achieve, even if it's 90% of the same feeling. With what Nike mentioned, gamification, the opportunities exist. I would not want us to knock it off totally as it is. And it's great to be open to newer opportunities that may come up. That may not exist now. Kenensaw may actually lead the way in developing that. And I'm really excited to see how that works out. That is where collaboration with tech and theater comes to play. And people like you would give feedback on user experience to say, this is not working for me. This is what I'm looking out for when I go to a theater show. I want to feel the goosebumps live. Can that be achieved using tech? Those are the conversations that will be had using this kind of user input, because definitely it's not only just about the maker and the tech builder. Having a user feedback is also great. The way architects design, and then when they lay the pathway, they let users walk through to see where they will lay the path. That's exactly how it's going to happen. And if tech and theater collaborate, plus user experience, then definitely I do not see any restrictions coming up. Even though we don't have it in Nigeria now, doesn't mean that we cannot have it in the future. Thank you very much for that contribution. Can we have James, please, give us feedback? It's very important for Kenensaw to get feedback on what they've done so far, because not many theater companies have done it. So it's great to give them feedback. James, can we have you, please?
Sure. I don't have so many to add to what's been said. I think it's, I quite enjoyed the pieces, actually. I mean, what I find interesting, I mean, aside from the social questions, I think that we've talked about, which I think are all very relevant and really what's exciting about those particular projects. But yeah, I just made me think about this question of realism, actually, and how obviously we're used to, watching films and videos and cinema, and then when we're talking about making a film of a performance which is shared online or wherever it's showed, it's like there's another quality. And I was kind of interested in watching it, the performers speaking to a kind of audience, but they're not speaking to camera. There's just some of those choices I thought were quite interesting, and I just wondered, I feel, how do we get familiar with or used to the idea of watching performances on video, when obviously it doesn't have those same qualities that the last speaker was just talking about, which I think are really, really important. So, but I thought the way you dealt with that was quite, because initially I thought, is this a trailer for a longer work, or is it a kind of because I felt they were very short, but obviously they felt quite substantial pieces. So, but I think, I think Joshua clarified, maybe they're actually, some of these works have been kind of extracted from existing projects. So they've been kind of, it's like a sort of a really compressed, short kind of 3 or 4 minutes, which in a way, like the previous gentleman was talking about, this idea of trailers, and in a way it can also work as something, as a sort of taster in a way for watching the full length show or something. So I think to keep thinking about that, so how can this be used as a way of bringing people into a space to actually watch theatre, I think it's important. But also, yeah, not to kind of have that confidence in the kind of abstractness of these performances, which are mostly like black box stagings, but very beautifully lit and, you know, filmed. And so yeah, I think that space is quite interesting, because I think we're so used to watching films and, you know, realist TV, you know, and I think we don't always allow ourselves the space to watch these kind of performances which are not trying to be naturalistic, let's say, you know, and which TV has done so well. So I think, you know, it's quite nice to be reminded of that and to look at the potential of that as well. So I quite enjoyed that aspect of it.
Thank you, James. Can we have Professor Yerima, please?
Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello,
Yes.
sir, we can hear you.
Yes. Well, I've learned a lot, and as all these beautiful speakers and wonderful speakers were speaking, I started thinking as a teacher, especially with what Mr. Aromolaron said, Yinka, that we might have to find a place of teaching. And I think German also mentioned it, that we may have to go back to the drawing board. I mean, that's teachers like me, and do a curriculum for the new normal. One, because all the people involved in theater performances now, that's theater, the practitioners, the teachers, the playwrights, all have not started thinking, or have not started going into this. And that's why the location, which German was talking about, is very important, that with time we would grow into it. Thank God for COVID. This is the first time I think I'm going to thank God for COVID, because it's forcing us to move ahead. It's brought another level of development. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why I want to congratulate Kiniso and you, Madam, and all the speakers for moving this discourse forward, and moving also the need for us to look at this new concept forward. And so I'm very happy with this. But I think with more of these programs, and when you know, we will now be able to learn more about what to do and how to handle it. And again, I think with time, we also find out that there's a need for us to look at the stories. The last speaker said something about realism and non-naturalism, and that is where we are steeped in. We are steeped in realism and naturalism. And so we need to begin to break away from that mode and then begin to look at abstraction. And that's what brings me to the films, the short clips of Kiniso. And I like them. And I like the comments Nika made and all the others. But I also think that they have to look at again, the audience. And where I got scared, being also on the board of Kiniso, well, I was thinking of how do we sustain this as an organization? And who is going to, like German said, when all the grants go, how do we do that? And I think that's where the speaker who said something about forming groups, the sponsorship groups that are going to help us move them forward. And I think that's what Kiniso has to begin to look at. What's going to help them take those wonderful clips with ideas, first look at the content and the format and everything, and then begin to say, who do we take them to, and how do we form groups or clubs or whatever that's going to help to sell, to move them into the groups, into wider consumption level, into the wider space. And so theater going into the digital space is going to be difficult, but I want to assure the speakers that by His grace, we will be able to get there. We always get there. So that's the spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. A lot has been said by our panelists around the films. Generally, they've been great. And this would be a very good time to bring in Joshua, the mastermind behind all this, to give us, you know, back information around how this came about and the response so far.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anike. But before I do this, I have one of my bosses here, Mr. Wale Oguntokun, who's a foremost playwright and director. And before now, there's been the conversation going on and on about, on the Guild, about how to move this forward. We've shared quite a lot in the past, and I think I would like him to actually give us his opinion, because presently he's working with a Canadian theater company. And Mr. Wale, please.
Thank you, Joshua. I don't think Anike wanted me to talk. Concerning one time, I do not think that we can discard what German said, along with Otumba, about the peculiarities of the Nigerian situation. What Joshua is doing is, I talk about this all the time to other people. What Joshua is doing is formidable, to see someone so young, just pushing his head into those places. But I do not think we can, the Nigerian terrain is so peculiar. I'm hoping that that techniques, in quotes, are not flung at us. And like Joshua said, we've had continuous conversations on this matter, what he's doing, how it can be sustained, like Professor Yerima said. So I would like, when this kind of matter is brought up subsequently, I would like the British Council to look at it with the light of the sustainability, because of the peculiarity of our situation. Like it's been asked, if funding is moved from Joshua or his patrons or his friends who support him now, if it's removed, how does he go ahead with this? How does he go ahead? We've spoken about this. Practically, Joshua spoke for hours on this matter because we kept on asking questions. It's the way to go. But how does it survive? German said MTN was kicking him out. How does it survive on our side? How does it survive? I'm part of a festival, Black Lives, Black Words in America, with a play that will come up in November. But the technique is theirs. The man who's directing my play there says, people, when in Zoom shows, like we just heard from the gentleman who spoke earlier, in Zoom shows, people tend to just, talk to the screen in Zoom theater. Now, this director, Harry Waters, is looking for a way to make it almost theater-like. These are the difficulties we will face. So someone who has attended maybe all my shows, all Joshua's shows, all Adefela's shows, all the Jodi's shows, says that he's not watching theater anymore. That's a problem. He doesn't want to watch TV. He wants the magic of stage. So I just like these things to be taken into consideration next time. That's me.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what really informed what we are doing? We had thought about it way before COVID, about 2 years ago. The need for, we felt theater makers, we've done a lot of theater on the street, in the market, in a proper theater, in halls. How then, what else could theater become? What else can we do with it? We thought about it for some time, and then we dumped the idea until COVID came. And when COVID came, a lot of things started happening online. It became a reality that nothing else could be done. We have to be at home for several months. So either we die or we do something. And then we started creative ideas, people stuff. And then one thing struck me, Frederick Moschel, the director of the Goethe Institute, she sent a link where the Goethe Institute in Germany were calling out and looking for experimental works, visual artists, culture, different works of theater and creative works. And then they have this they created this website where you could upload your work and people would watch at a particular time and then donate some money. So it was really there. People would get to donate to you, or people would, if you want to watch for free, it had its own time. And I visited that website. We saw lots of material and lots of content, and I watched you. And things kept happening. But for us in Nigeria, there's been the struggle, we don't have theater spaces. So if before now, we have always complained of not having theater spaces, and then now COVID has happened, we can't do theater, then what is really going to happen when COVID is over? So either we go back all the way to square minus 0, or we advance, we continue from where we stop, not have to start all over again. But of us theater makers, we're so jealous of our work. We hold it so much that I don't know if we often think of what else could be made from it. So that's why we said, okay, why not try? Every great invention in the world has been stumbled upon, has been experimental. No one ever thought of if it's really going to work or not going to work. And then for us, we also had the question of, so when Goethe Institute, Ford Foundation, and the MacArthur Foundation and so on, they stopped providing us money. However, when we made this series, we got the fund from the MacArthur Foundation, and we're supposed to make only 4 series of them. And the funds for 4 series, we made 21. We were actually supposed to make about 40. But because we had to make the 21 very well, that's why we limited it to that number. And we saw that they looked really good. Sound was really good. Video was really good. We had almost everything we needed to, we were able to get some of the things we needed. So what next from here? We began to speak with distributors. And for the digital platform, number matters. Number is money. For YouTube, for Instagram wouldn't pay you, Twitter wouldn't pay you, but maybe we can chart a new course. Maybe, okay, on the October 1st, Nigeria's Independence Day, we released the first video. And before then, our YouTube channel had just 39 subscribers. And between the 1st of October and the night of the 2nd of October, we had over 300 subscribers, and we had a lot of views, and I have never had such views before. So if we're able to pull this through, because the same strategy we are using now for this digital theater has been the same strategy we've been using for our other shows. So why can't we use the same now and then use even more? Because now this time we have a lot of people all over the world to watch, people who cannot watch from a school theater in Lagos. So aside for YouTube, we started speaking to marketers, actually film distributors, and online channels and online technology companies. The important thing for us is we want to make theater, we want to take theater to the digital platform. We decided to start with these topical stories. However, we want to make money, and we will make the money. How, we don't know yet, but that's the major point. And that's what we're working on every day, including this morning, where we've been speaking with, we're beginning to speak with the guys at Netflix, for example, for them to start this idea being called home theater. It has never been on Netflix. People want to come to Netflix to watch films, proper films of 1 hour, 2 hours, or long series. But how it's going to happen, we don't know. But we feel it's going to happen, and maybe it's just it's something new that would lead. If it's not a thing, then this would lead us to the thing.
Thank you, Joshua, for that. Fun fact here, Joshua and myself have known Mr. Wole Ogusokun for a number of years. And if there's one thing he always says, is always start first. And Joshua has just shown that. Start first, and every other thing will follow. If Joshua hadn't done this, I don't believe that the funding to turn those 4 initial ones to 21 would have happened. So the important thing we've taken here is start first and collaborate, and definitely things will begin to fall into place. And this has been a very, very interesting conversation. I'm happy that it's been very engaging in the chat box. We've had contributions from everyone on here on what Joshua can do. I'm sure that this session is being recorded, so I'm sure that all of this information in the chat box, Joshua would have it. And of course, if there are any theater makers here willing to collaborate, interested in collaborating, or even getting information on how to go about it, please reach out to Joshua and Kiniso Concepts, and they will be able to tell you how to go about that. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll now have the final words from our panelists so that we can officially close this session. Can we start with Jill, please? Final words.
I'd like to thank everyone. It has been amazing and kind of gobsmacking. I know very little about Nigeria and your culture and your politics, but the films that Joshua has made and the chat today has really raised my awareness of you as a country, and what an amazing, intelligent, cultured, thoughtful human beings you are. So privileged to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Inge, can we have your last words?
Thank you very much. It's a humbling experience to have been part of that. And I think I learned so much, and there are so many great people in the room. I think I was very grateful for the historic perspective that we got. And I think that's always very important indeed, that you know where you come from and that you know where you're going through, and that we see this phase also as a sort of process. I really like the question, what else can theater become? For example, that's something that will stick in my mind still to think about, to not see it as something that is fixed or as we know it, but how these things evolve and what, yeah, how we adapt and be flexible in this world. I think also a sentence that stuck with me also is we are speaking the international language, and we are not there or something. And I think the thing of advocacy is needed, because we do not have the ecosystem that works, is really something to look into, and also to not forget about the circumstances, and to look into these things with the people who are in the room, and to explore that further, to see how you can also, I think, support Kininzo in developing that further, so that there is a context and circumstances in which these films and things can work. But I think Joshua's courage and ambition and energy speaks for itself to have gone so far already, and I'm sure things will develop out of this. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this.
Thank you very much, Inge. Professor Yerima, can we have your last words, please?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, yes. I think I've enjoyed myself. I've learned a lot also. And like I said, I think maybe there might even be, I'm going to have to discuss with Joshua if there's a need for us to have, and German, to have a discourse with all the other, with university lecturers, because those who actually teach theater. And for us to begin to know, and that's one of the things I'm taking away from today's discussion, that there might the trainers, those who teach theater, must know that theater has to now move forward, the big great leap which Odutola is talking about. And so it will be easier for us to begin to know, because the new students are going to come in, and we are going to, if we don't take time, keep to the old curriculum. And when they graduate, we will find that we have not prepared them for the future. And they will fall into that moment of shock. And before they find themselves, the whole system. I think it's not just practice that's going to work now. Learning has to work, and we have to make it more relevant. And the new medium or media has to, we have to adapt to it and to understand how to use theater properly, globally, and so that we can live within the new normal. Thank you. I'm very grateful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Ayola, can we hear from you, please? Is Ayola on the line? Okay. While we're waiting for Ayola, can we have German, please? Uncle German, your last words, please.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm lucky to be coming immediately after Professor Yerima. I think what I like to be, I like to be realistic, and then I don't like to reinvent the wheel. As I've been mentioning consistently, I studied all these experiments that have been done. And I think what Crown Troupe of Africa did with the Echo Theater Carnival, ETC, what they did, I think, is one of the ways that we can, one of the template that we can explore. As I've said, they made the combination of real and live. You know, I like to think in terms of space. Freedom Park, for instance, or even National Theatre, it is so possible that at Freedom Park, for instance, I could have a play where I could put screen in so many, you know, it has about 7 performance spaces. I could put, for instance, screen in 7 places, have the show happening in the amphitheater, and have the screens where people can experience this theater, and they will pay. Just the same way that Lagos Theatre Carnival, Lagos Theatre Festival, Anika, you are part of that. Just the same way you do the theater. The others are seeing the play on screen, but it is happening in a particular location. So that's the kind of ecosystem that I'm thinking that we should start to think about. And it's not only in Freedom Park. It can happen in Egbeda, in Ajangbadi, wherever you want to do it. It is possible to situate theater in that context, and then you're able to see that. But I would like to propose to Kiniso as a board member and someone participating here, a follow-up conference on this, where I would love to have a Wole Oguntokun. I'm insisting, please. An Ijodi, Adefila, because these are the guys producing play. Maybe you bring Jerry Adeshewo from Abuja, you bring Jude from Jos. These are people producing theater. The way I've seen this, like we're talking at them, but these are the guys who are the foot. So they are out there. They are the one experiencing this, and we don't really know what they are going, what they experience apart from what Wole Oguntokun has told us. So I'd like to propose to Kiniso that we should have that. So that as part of harvesting what we have discussed here today, we can bring that in. Even Professor Yerima can be there because the curriculum thing is very important. We can't continue to train hundreds, and I'm being modest. Thousands of young people are coming out of theater school. They have no idea where they're going to. They didn't have an idea before COVID. Now there's COVID. What idea do they have? They're just going to come on the street, and then what are they going to produce? But thank you very much. I've really learned a lot here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we have James, please?
Sure, just to say, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was great to listen to this conversation. And I think, as has been said, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the kind of hearing more about actually the Nigerian context and, you know, and the history. And I feel that's really important, even in terms of, you know, the home theatre project and how that, in a way, what you're creating there fits into a historical continuity in a way, and which is about thinking about, you know, what is our society? What do we, you know, what do we want to speak about? And these things, we always have to be, as theatre makers, attentive to how do we find the space to talk about those things. And, you know, and I think that's what theatre is. So, you know, I think, and then we just have to equip ourselves in the best way possible to develop those tools and those skills so that we can feel confident in doing that. And so knowing that what we're doing is somehow always new territory, and it should be new territory. You know, so I think, yeah, I sort of, so I applaud, and you know, I kind of support that, you know, that the effort to try and find the language in a way. And I think as long as it's a difficult language, it's probably the right, you know, good language, you know, so not to be too comfortable with it. So I think that's, you know, but I just, you know, keep, you know, good luck. And yeah, I look forward to talk, you know, continue this discussion really. I hope we can in some way. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Frederica, can we have your last words, please?
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank Kiniso Concept and especially Joshua for providing this platform for exchange. I think this is very important, not just to sit there and saying, oh gosh, it's also horrible, and so just to move forward, to try to develop ideas how to move forward. And I also would like to thank Jarman to point out the importance of collaboration. I think especially COVID-19 and the pandemic, the lockdown showed that in the future, the collaboration between initiatives, theater ensembles, etc., and also the maybe the IT scene in Yaba or whoever. This is really important to continue and to stay successful. So I do really hope that this time, as horrible as it is, especially for all the people who really have to fight now to survive and to find some work, however, that it gives us the possibility to stop, to think, and to develop new strategies for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federica. Nike and Ayola have had to leave to join another panel discussion they are on. So unfortunately, we'll not be getting their last words, but they've mentioned to me in the chat box saying that they're very happy to have been here and are happy with all of the conversations around collaborations, like Federica has just iterated, and German as well. So without further ado, I would like to call on Joshua to give his last words for this session.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks for responding to us at at the very short notice. It wasn't totally up to a week. Thanks for responding. Thanks that you allowed us to lean on you, and you were there responsive every time we needed something from you, and for the support every time. For those still around, it's just important to mention that I met Jill Robertson for the first time at the Borough Festival last year, but we had talked before then, and I met her through a colleague in Berlin, and so the connection kept on going. I met Inge. We haven't met physically. We met. I was at the Festival Academy organized by her association this year, also through another colleague in South Africa. I met James through the British Council Nigeria. I've met Uncle German and Professor Yerima. They've been supportive to Kinso all the years before now. Mr. Leo Buntokun has been a supporter. I trained on him. Through him, I've attended festivals around the world. Frederick Moschel, the Goethe Institute has always been a strong pillar all the time. And presently, we are also working on a project on suicide. So everyone on the, I mean, including those who have left, even Nike, we haven't met. I just sent her a message on Instagram and we started chatting from there. Dr. Dutola reached out to me when he wanted to have his own session also on how theater could be, on how theater could thrive, touring theater could thrive around the world from Nigeria. So it's a web, it's a connection that we are making. It's a family that we're creating. And we hope that this would continue and that whenever we call on you, you will keep supporting, and we appreciate you. I've learned a lot. We have all the feedback here. We have the video. We'll do more work and we'll make you proud. And thank you. And also, the idea of home theater isn't to eradicate or stop live theater. It's just what it could be. Maybe also the idea of home theater, when live theater starts, they could go side by side. You could watch from the theater and call your sister at home, say, I'm watching a beautiful show, please watch online. So we're gathering our audiences, live audiences, maintaining our live audiences, and then gathering new digital audience. Thank you very much. And thanks to Anike. Thank you. One last thing. We were to have a different moderator. I had that last minute emergency, and we had to call on Anike to say, by the way, I and Anike were at Renegade Theatre, went to London, went to Edinburgh, we traveled all over the world. And Anike stepped into the shoes and took it upon herself to make this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today and engaging with this conversation so passionately. Like, whatever strides we make in the future, definitely this conversation was important to be had. And this conversation has contributed to every stride that will be made in this theater industry. And I'm happy that we're all open to collaboration and would always work hand in hand, even to make it stronger and develop further than how we have it now. Thank you very much for joining us today. Do have a lovely week. Bye-bye.
Anika Kusho, how are you?
Thank you. How far?
Oh, Wapa now. How are you here?
How you doing? Fine.
Mr. Joshua Kushe. Sorry, I joined late. I was trying to join and I don't know what was happening. The thing wasn't even connecting. I just kept on trying.
No, well, Mr. Adenuga, thank you, sir.
If we join. How far, Nike? Nice to see you, your baby.
Mr. Shola Adenuga, thank you.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Joshua. Good evening. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Shola.
Well done, sir.
Joshua, well done. Kushe. Most of the things that were discussed actually is things that have been reoccurring. COVID is just throwing most of those things in our faces, you know, it's just making us see the new reality on ground. I was telling Uncle German, I remember very well quickly, we went for this workshop at British Council when we were doing site specific. And what Uncle German was saying was exactly the same thing that was said at those workshops where it was site specific kind of things where I don't know, one of the workshop trainers was saying there was even a time they had something, was it in a prison, and all they just did was use cameras. It was happening live in that prison, that specific space, and they were just projecting it, you know, outside to people who were out of the, you understand, who were outside to watch it. And it's really, you know, it just takes the first step. Let's just take the first step to make sure that things are done. We'll talk about it later and whatever we can all do to at least face our new reality, the new normal. You know, we would one by one be fixing it. It's just like a puzzle. It's just like what do these children play with? This brick and what that they all put together. Well, Kushe, well done, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very
much. Nice to see your faces again, Jerry. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.